The Bull Bitcoin mobile wallet is a one-stop shop to be able to send, receive, and secure your Bitcoin. And in a growing number of jurisdictions, you can also use the app to buy, sell, and use your Bitcoin on things like your bills. Now, this thing is friendly for both beginners and Bitcoin veterans. And today we're going to be breaking down all of the incredible features packed in to this excellent mobile wallet. Strap in. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session. Now, there is plenty to cover with the Bull Bitcoin mobile wallet, but we're going to start from the most basic beginner-friendly use case of this wallet, and then we'll begin to work our way through some of the more advanced things, like if you've built up some savings and you want to be able to secure it and maybe use some hardware to do so. We'll cover that, and other things that may come with a little bit more experience in Bitcoin. Everything will be time-stamped, and if we use things in this tutorial that are not explicitly broken down, I will have dedicated tutorials to those things down in the show notes if you need to level up as we go. But the beginning of this will be very beginner-friendly, and we'll walk you through everything you need to know, and we'll continue on from there. If you do come up with questions that aren't covered here, please do drop them down in the comments. But without further ado, we're going to be checking out the Bull Bitcoin app, which again is available for mobile, both on Android and iOS. So if you're rocking an iPhone or an Android phone, doesn't matter, you're all good. And I will also say that jurisdictionally, check bullbitcoin.com to see if the exchange functionality, being able to buy and sell Bitcoin, is available to you. Even if it's not, I will say that the app itself as a wallet is an excellent starting point for people to dive in and start using Bitcoin, and you can use whatever exchange you happen to be on if the Bull app does not feature buying and selling functionality for you. But with that, let's jump over to the phone and check out a freshly installed version of Bull Bitcoin mobile wallet. So here I am with the mobile app. I am on an Android phone, so if there's some variation between this and iOS, it should generally be the same, but you may notice little things that are slightly different. But this is our main screen. We've got two options. We've got Create New Wallet, and we've got Recover Wallet. The Recover Wallet, obviously, if you had a pre-existing Bull Bitcoin wallet, or for that matter, other Bitcoin wallets, you can do so with that option. But we're going to go down to the bottom and click on Create New Wallet. This will take a few seconds and do some things in the background for you to get you set up, and will bump us into a brand new screen where we're all set. This wallet is now functional. You are able to send and receive Bitcoin in a variety of ways already. That's it. So no IDs, nothing like that. You just hit Create New Wallet and you have a new wallet right here. Now, before we move on and we start sending and receiving Bitcoin, you are going to want to back up this wallet. Now, it's important to note that a Bitcoin wallet actually doesn't hold the money. It's kind of like when you think of a bank account, what they really have is they have a ledger of who owns what. And with Bitcoin, it is a global ledger of who owns what, known as the Bitcoin time chain. And so what does your wallet even hold then? Your wallet actually holds the keys to your money, a digital key. So we have a key sitting here on our phone for our newly created digital vault, but we want to make a spare key just in case we delete the app by accident or lose our phone, whatever the case may be. So we're going to go do that right now. Really simple. All I'm going to do is up in the top right-hand corner, there's this little settings wheel. So I'm going to go tap on that right now. And you can see the second option here is wallet backup. So I'm going to tap on that. Now, there are different ways of backing up the wallet. One will be familiar to Bitcoiners that have been around the block. You already know how to back up a wallet. The other one is a very cleverly designed cloud storage backup. And some veteran Bitcoiners will be thinking, a wallet backup in the cloud? I don't know, that sounds risky. But the way that Bull Bitcoin has done this is very, very unique and incredibly resilient to remote attacks. I will explain how it works later in the video, but in practice, we're going to take a look at how to actually do this backup first. I'll explain it later for the keeners that want to understand what's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit Start Backup. So you see you have two options: Encrypted Vault, anonymous backup with strong encryption using your cloud. It's easy and simple, takes 1 minute. You've got a physical backup. This one will be familiar to Bitcoiners that have been around for a little bit. Write down 12 words on a piece of paper and keep them safe and make sure not to lose them. Also, make sure nobody gets a peek at them, because that is a copy of the key to your money. There's more details on how to decide here, but first we're going to try the encrypted vault. We're going to do that, and then we'll do the second one for those that prefer the second option. So I tap the top one, and I can choose Google Drive because I'm on my Android phone. This may be your iCloud as an option if you're on an iPhone. So I'll choose Google Drive. It says, hey, you're going to need to sign into Google Drive. It gives me some options. I'm going to back this up to my BTC Sessions Gmail. Now it says I want to choose a PIN. It's got to be at least 6 digits long for this backup. And then I can choose a password instead if I want. A PIN is fine, and I will explain why later on. But for now, I'm going to do a very simple PIN for this video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm doing this intentionally. 6. This PIN is too common. Please choose a different one. So Bull Bitcoin have ensured that you're not going to pick a super simple PIN. They've got a list of, I can't remember how many pins, but if you choose something too simple, it's just not going to work. So if it's a common pattern that people often use, it'll say like, listen, this is not secure enough. You need to do better. So let's choose something else. I'm going to go, let's see, 279 831. Okay. All right. I'll write that down because I just kind of pulled that out of my butt here. But either way, 279831. I'll write that off screen, but we'll hit confirm. And then I got to type it in again. 279831. Okay. I've confirmed it and confirm down below. Connecting to the server over Tor, which is encrypted. So again, additional privacy here. And it's going to make a backup for me, which I can recover later. Backup is completed. Now let's test your backup to make sure everything was done properly. We'll hit Test Backup at the bottom. We'll choose Encrypted Vault, Google Drive. It's going to check, and it says, hey, looks like you just made a backup. We found this file. Let's hit Decrypt Vault, and we'll put in our PIN, 279831. Confirm. Test completed successfully. You're able to recover to a lost Bitcoin wallet. So everything's all good. I can hit got it. There's my backup. So that is option number 1 for backup. For you veteran Bitcoiners, those that know what's up, or maybe you just prefer this way, exact same thing. I'm going to go to the settings up top right. Now we'll choose wallet backup. Now here it does say, hey, you can export the vault, you can view the vault key, you can test your backup, because we've gone through a process and, backed up a key already. So we have some additional ones, but we also have the start backup button still at the bottom. So when I do that, we still have encrypted vault. So maybe you have different cloud storage, but we have physical backup, and we're going to do that this time. So I'll tap there. And it says, hey, this is your backup best practices. You got 12 words. You got to keep them safe. Without the backup, you can't recover, assuming you hadn't done the encrypted vault. Anyone with access to these 12 words has the keys to your money. That's important to note. So keys to your money are these 12 words. Do not make digital copies of these. Don't screenshot them, anything like that. A physical written copy, or some people might stamp it into steel. There's tools for that. Shout out Cedar. But your backup, again, not protected by a passphrase. You can add a passphrase to your backup later by creating a new wallet. That's, again, additional information that we don't need to cover for this simplistic backup right now. So I'll hit the backup button. Now, you cannot see what is on my screen, but it is showing me a list of 12 English words, which I will need to now write down just off screen and then type in again to recover. So it is going to test my knowledge and get me to write these down again. So I'm writing these 12 down. We'll cut ahead to where I've done so, and then we'll make sure that I've done it correctly. Okay, I'm back now. Now, again, you cannot see my screen, but what it's done is it's given me my 12 words, but it's scrambled them all out of order. And so in order to make sure I've done this correctly, it's going to ask me to tap them in order from number one. So it's saying, what is word number one? And I'm looking at my written list and the word was retire. So I got to find that in here and then tap on it and it'll put a little number one beside it. And it's going to go all the way through my 12 words. So I'll jump ahead to where I've done that. Once I've selected all the words, there's a verify button on the bottom, which I've just tapped, and it says test completed successfully. So in both instances, I have now created a spare key. I now have 2 spare keys because I have my 12 words written down, but I've also got a Google Cloud backup in order to access it that way. So I can hit got it, and now we're back. Okay, so I now have all of my backups completed. I have my Bitcoin wallet ready to go. And now we can explore what's in front of us. Okay, so let's get an overview of what is in front of us. So up top, we're going to have our balance. And our balance shows in 2 different ways. It shows in sats and currently for me in US dollars. Now you can set your local currency to whatever you like. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to do that right now. I'll go to the settings and we have the currency portion here. I can hit currency and my default I can change to Canadian dollars because I am in Canada. So I'll do that right now. And I've done that. There's also this little toggle switch that says display unit in sats. I'll go back. I'm going to keep that as is. But for those that are new to Bitcoin, just to explain what that is, 1 Bitcoin is obviously has a very, very high price tag, but 1 Bitcoin has smaller pieces, kind of like you have a dollar and you have cents. Well, in this instance, you can divide Bitcoin into 100 million pieces, and the smallest piece is called a sat. A lot of people prefer to now talk about sats as instead of full Bitcoin because you'd be dealing with decimals. That's a lot harder. Sats, you're going to have whole numbers. So with that, we'll see when we get some Bitcoin in here, we'll have however many sats there are. And then down below, it will tell me how much those sats are worth in Canadian dollars. Down below, we have buy, sell, pay, transfer. This is all in relation, or rather these first 3 are in relation to the Bull Bitcoin exchange account. So if you have access to the exchange, then that will pertain to that. And we'll show how to log into that momentarily if you do have an account, though I'm not going to cover setting up a Bull Bitcoin account. I do have other videos on that, and there's plenty of info out there on that. But nonetheless, that's what it is. Transfer is referring to between your accounts. And so what accounts do you have when you initially get set up? You have 2. One is called Secure Bitcoin and one is called Instant Payments. And they kind of refer to exactly what they are. So Secure Bitcoin is using regular Bitcoin transactions. These are a little bit slower. These are a little bit more expensive. The fees can vary. However, they are more secure. Okay. With instant payments, these are going to be faster and they're going to be cheaper to execute, a little bit less secure, but they're meant for spending money. In fact, everything in front of us in general is typically kind of meant for spending money. For greater security, we'll cover that later in the video. But you have 2 accounts and the transfer button is allowing you to transfer between them. So maybe you'd have money in the secure Bitcoin option, and then you'd say, I want, $100 for some quick payments, getting coffees and things like that. You'd move it over to instant payments. Now, at the bottom, you have receive and send. Pretty intuitive what those are. To receive Bitcoin or send Bitcoin, you'd hit there. And then at the bottom, you have wallet. This is highlighted because we're on this screen. And then you have exchange. And if I click that, it takes us to another place. And this is where we can log in or sign up for the exchange if it's available in our area. Now I'll click that for a second just to show. But basically, it's going to show an online portal where I can log in with my credentials. I am going to do that off screen and I'll get logged in here and then we'll show what it looks like to have that functionality. And I'll also show what it looks like moving money from exchange to wallet and we'll start to explore how to use the wallet itself. If you do not have access to the exchange portion of it, that's okay. We'll also show how to receive Bitcoin from other sources. All right, so here I am logged into an account, and I do have some funding in here just so we can see what that looks like. But in general, you see a balance up top in your local currency. You see buy, sell, and pay in regards to paying bills and things like that, and transfer. And then things like recurring buy, deposit, and withdraw. That would be funding your account or withdrawing from your account, so on and so forth. And yeah, so this gives me all of the functionality that I need out of the exchange. And then it's just moving from wallet to exchange back and forth. Okay. So now we have lay of the land. And up next, we're going to start using the wallet. We're going to get Bitcoin. We'll do it from the exchange into the wallet, but we'll also do it from another wallet into the wallet. And you'll begin to glean how to properly receive Bitcoin as you see fit. All right, so let's receive Bitcoin for the first time, this time from the exchange. And I'll make a couple notes here because if you're using this in the future with some of the other things that we're going to cover in this video, like using hardware for security, you will have more options when you make a purchase when you go to do so. So let's just take a look. We're going to go down to the bottom where it says exchange. Okay, so I've already sent some money to Bull Bitcoin. So there's, around 25 bucks sitting here, and I would like to purchase Bitcoin with it. I'll make a note that depending on the amount of Bitcoin that you are buying, you may choose to designate what account this is going into when you purchase. It's important to note that the $25 right now are in the custody of Bull Bitcoin. But as soon as I execute a purchase of Bitcoin, Bull Bitcoin never holds Bitcoin for me. It will be sent directly to the wallet that I choose. And as we recall, go down to the bottom to wallet, we have two. We have secure Bitcoin, which is regular Bitcoin transactions. They're a little bit slower and more expensive, better for, I'd say, larger amounts. And we have instant payments. This is better for small amounts. $25 I would consider as a small amount. If I was looking at this secure Bitcoin, I'd maybe be thinking at least a few $100 would make a bit more sense. But yeah, we're going to go to instant payments. So let's go back to the exchange and we're going to choose buy. Now at this point, you could type in any dollar amount that is below the threshold of the total amount you have sitting there, or you can just choose max. I'm going to hit max. Okay. And then it says select balance. There's a drop down. I can go to secure Bitcoin, my on-chain regular Bitcoin transactions, instant payments, which with a smaller amount, that makes a lot of sense, or external Bitcoin wallet. If I want to send somewhere else other than the Bull Bitcoin wallet, if I got a different Bitcoin wallet, I can absolutely do that here too. I'm going to choose instant payments. I'm going to hit continue. This gives me a summary of what I'm doing. I'm going to pay $25.10, the total amount in my account. I'm going to receive 16,322 sats, and the Bitcoin price in Canadian dollars at the time of this purchase for a whole Bitcoin is this. And so it's going to my instant payments wallet, and it says, give a confirmation within 5 minutes. We'll hold this price for you. Okay, I'm going to hit confirm purchase. And there we go. You bought 16,322 sats. I can hit view details. If I want some additional details, this gives me a whole bunch of stuff, transaction IDs, addresses, all this stuff. If you're brand new to Bitcoin, don't need to worry about it. If you've been around the block and you want to look at some of this information, you can absolutely take a look at it. I'm not going to dwell on it right now. If I don't need this, I'm just going to hit the X in the top and X again out of this screen. Okay. This automatically bumps me back to my wallet screen. And lo and behold, look, we've got a balance sitting there. So we've got around just below $25 worth because, of course, there's a bit of a spread on the price there. And that's totally fine by me. So we have 16,322 sats now sitting in our instant payment wallet. So we were able to receive, and that was able to go directly into our wallet as soon as we hit the buy button. Now, there are other ways to receive Bitcoin, and let's talk through if you're on a different exchange, if you don't have access to Bull in the wallet, or if you're sending from wallet to wallet, how do you receive into the Bull app? We'll do that next. All right, so let's try receiving to the wallet in a couple different ways. So from our wallet screen, we're going to hit receive down in the bottom left. And this is going to give us a handful of options. Now, we're going to first do some receiving into our second account, our instant payments account. Okay. And the instant payment account can use two different methods of payment. You can kind of think of this screen like when you go to a merchant to pay and they say, how would you like to pay? Since you're the one receiving money, you're designating how the sender is sending you money. So in a regular transaction, it might be cash or Visa or MasterCard or a debit card or a gift card. The same thing exists with Bitcoin. You can have regular on-chain Bitcoin payments. Those are the slower, more expensive ones. Or you can have Lightning payments, or you can have Liquid payments. These are the ones that are here. Lightning and Liquid are faster and cheaper. Regular Bitcoin is a little bit slower and more expensive. So let's start with Lightning. And what we do here is we designate an amount we would like to send. Lightning is unique in that in this context, you create an invoice for a specific amount. So I'm going to create an invoice here for, now we can designate a Canadian dollar amount, an amount in sats, or whatever other local currency we want, but we'll choose Canadian dollar amount. Okay. So I'd like to receive, let's say, I don't know, we'll say 10 Canadian dollars. Okay. So I'm going to hit 10 Canadian dollars. That is 6,599 sats. So I hit continue. And this creates a couple things, a QR code and a Lightning invoice that shows up as a whole bunch of different digits with an easy copy button. Both of these things are the same information. So the QR code and that string, that mess of digits down below, exact same information. It tells the sender how much to send and where to send it. And so what I'm going to do, since I'm going to send from another wallet that I have, is I'm going to hit the copy button over here to copy my Lightning invoice. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll tap that and you can see it pops onto my clipboard here. If somebody had a wallet and they were right in front of me, they could just scan this QR code and that would give them all the info they need. So I'm going to jump over to a different Lightning wallet here. Just one that's commonly used called Wallet of Satoshi. I jump into the wallet and right away, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit send. And then there's a little paste button down below. So I'll paste. And it says, hey, you're sending 6,599 sats, around $7. That's in US dollars, just so you know the discrepancy. I'll hit the send button and off it shall go. All right. And so now we have a payment received in the Bull Bitcoin wallet, and it's around 10 Canadian dollars. So I can get the details. I'm not going to dive into that right now. I'll just hit the X. And we see our balance has been adjusted with the new money now come in. So there's example number one. And now for example number two, I'm going to hit receive again. This time for another instant payment receive, I'm going to hit liquid. Now this is a little bit different. You can create an invoice down below. There's a thing where you can put the amount. But with liquid, you can also just have a QR code or an address down below, and anybody can send any amount to that. So we'll just use this example once again. I'm going to hit the copy button and we'll jump over to another wallet that I have called Aqua. Okay. And this one has a balance as well. I'm going to hit send and I'm sending using liquid this time. Now it notes that I have something in my clipboard, so I'll just use the address that I copied. And this could be information that you text to somebody else, just so you know, or you can use it in your own wallets. It's all the same. It lets people know where they're sending the money to. So I pasted in my address. I'll hit continue. And it says, how much do you want to send? I can designate amount in USD or in LBTC, which stands for liquid Bitcoin, or I can send the max. I'm going to send over the max amount that's in this wallet. I'll hit continue and I'll slide to send. So off that transactions goes, I will hit done. And then let's jump back into Bull Bitcoin. Now on the liquid screen here, I'm not positive if it'll show an incoming transaction. Lightning and liquid. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so we received a transaction right there, 46,058 sats. And it gives me an option to add a note here to the transaction. That would be like, oh, I got this from such and such. And so you can do that. I'm not going to do that right now, but I'll hit X. And again, we see our balance adjusted. So we've now just received 2 different instant payments. And all we have left is to receive a regular Bitcoin transaction. And we'll see how that works next. So one last time, I'll hit receive. This time I'm going to choose Bitcoin up top. And just like Liquid, it gives me a QR code. I can set an amount if I want. In this instance, again, I'm not going to set an invoice, but I have the option to share this as copy it to my clipboard and go to another wallet, or allow somebody to scan the QR code. There is a little note that says Payjoin activated. I will cover that later in the video. Okay. But this time I'm actually going to use a desktop wallet called Sparrow Wallet, and I'm going to be able to scan the QR code on my phone. So I'm going to keep this screen open on my phone. I'm going to jump over on my desktop. This is Sparrow Wallet. There's lots of stuff here. If this is intimidating to you, don't worry. You don't need to know a lot about Sparrow Wallet right now. But if you're curious, I highly recommend you dive into it and you learn about it. It is an excellent tool. Nonetheless, I'm going to go to my send screen, and where it says pay to, I'm going to open up my camera and scan my Bull Bitcoin app. And you can see there, as soon as I scan, it pulls in my Bitcoin address from the QR code. And actually, I verify, take a look on my phone and cross-reference with what was scanned in here, just to make sure it's the same. It's always good practice to check those, the beginning and the end of the address to make sure. I'm going to say I'm sending this to my Bull app. How much do I want to send? That is a good question. How much do I have in here? 193,000 sats. Okay, so maybe I'll do 75. That's about $80 US. Okay, so I'm going to send that off. Again, I can adjust my fee. Now, right now, fees on Bitcoin are low, just as I'm recording this video. You can see still it's going to cost me about 15 cents to send this. But just to give you an idea, those other transactions that I did, the Lightning and the Liquid transactions, those are going to be maybe a few cents. But with Bitcoin, as fees go up, and you get to set your own fee, but if it's busy, you need to boost your fee to make the transaction go faster. So just to show you, as I slide this up, you can start to see like it could get to the point where it's, multiple like $7, $8, $9, $10 at times when fees spike. So even like $20, $30. So just be aware that those on-chain regular Bitcoin transactions can be a little bit more expensive, especially when things get busy. So, larger amounts. In this instance, I'm only sending over $80 or $100, but other times you probably want to reserve that for your instant payments wallet. Either way, I'm going to hit create transaction, and I'll just hit the blue buttons. I'm glossing all this over, but if you're curious about Sparrow, go check out the video. And we'll jump back to our phone here. We should see this pop up momentarily here. And Bitcoin payments, because they take a little bit of time to settle. On average, a Bitcoin payment will take about 10 minutes if it has a high enough fee. And so we should see a notification, but I imagine we'll also see some information letting us know that it's going to take some time to fully settle. So I ended up just hitting the back button to get to the main screen, and actually I can see the funds have landed. So if I tap on that account, it'll give me the transactions. And actually it looks like, there we go. Okay, so here's where we can see if a transaction is pending, is if we click on the specific account, on the Bitcoin account, now it does show a balance there, but it shows a list of transactions here. If I had others, it would be listed down below, but there's a set that says pending. And so if it's pending, it just means you've just received it, and it will take a little bit of time before it is fully officially settled. And we'll see what that looks like in a little bit. But I can also click on the transaction and it'll say status pending. I can also, if I'm not mistaken, tap on the transaction ID up top and it'll show me my transaction waiting in line. So I can see that the next block of transactions that happens, I will likely be in there. So won't take very long. I'll just X out of that and X out here. So that's pretty much it. We received 4 different ways actually from the exchange: via Lightning invoice, via Liquid, both of those instant payments, and via regular on-chain Bitcoin. So a variety of different ways to receive to the wallet. Now we're going to check out how to send. Now, one of the cool things about sending is that you don't need to think too much. And what I mean by this is if I go and I click on send, it gives me a couple options: open the camera or paste in a payment address or invoice or whatever I have. And then the wallet will pretty much just know what to do. So unlike receiving, where you're kind of like the merchant saying, how would you like to pay? When you're paying, you just pay. And it should just work. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to hit open the camera. And the first time it's going to ask if I give permission, I'll say yes. So I can scan something now. I'm going to use this to now scan on my screen here this invoice. Now, this is a donation page for the Human Rights Foundation, who I do a bunch of work with, teaching people how to use Bitcoin around the globe to evade tyrannical governments. And so I'm going to send a $5 donation here. This is an invoice for a specific amount of Bitcoin, and it's with Lightning. So scanning this with my phone now, and what ends up happening is the app says, hey, it looks like there's an invoice here for 4,625 sats. This is what it is. This is what it's worth in Canadian dollars. This is the fee, 43 sats, which is very, very little. And that's that. So I'm going to go ahead. If it looks good, I'm going to hit confirm. And off it shall send. It maybe takes, a minute or so to be fully done. And that's pretty much it. So I can hit view details if I want. Otherwise, I can just back out to the main screen. You can already see in the instant payments there, our balance has gone down a little bit. It says that this is, where is it? There we go. This went out a moment ago. If we jump back, there's our payment page. Invoice was paid. Looks good. So, I mean, that was dirt easy. Scan a QR code and hit send. So nice and easy. Now let's try sending a different way. That was a Lightning payment. Let's try sending to a Liquid address. And so I'm going to go back. I'm going to open up Aqua again, and I'll hit receive and I'll choose Liquid. And this is a Liquid Bitcoin address. Okay. So no invoice or anything. I'm just going to copy that invoice that's there by tapping on it. We'll jump back to Bull, and we're going to hit send down at the bottom. In this instance, I'm actually going to choose this paste button and paste in what I had on my clipboard, which is a Liquid address, and hit continue. So the Bull Bitcoin wallet knows it already designated this is Liquid. Okay, this is a Liquid address. We know what you're doing. Just tell us how much you want to send, because there was nothing designated in the information you gave us. So we can choose an amount. I'll just for ease of use, I'll do it in Canadian dollars here. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to send, let's say, $7. Okay, I'll hit continue. It says, hey, this is where it's going. This is how much you're sending. This is the fees, 26 sats. Looks good to me. That's very, very little. I'm going to hit confirm, sending, and that should go off no problem. There we go. Successfully sent, and that will land in Aqua Wallet, and we'll be able to spend it there. So also, pretty easy when it comes to sending via Liquid. You can paste or scan, type in the amount, off it goes. on-chain, a regular Bitcoin payment. This is where fees are going to come into play. How much do I want to spend on my fees? So let's take a look at sending on-chain. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit the send button at the bottom, and I'm going to open my camera because I'm going to be scanning this, my Bitcoin address here in Sparrow Wallet. So I'll scan it on my phone. We'll jump back to the phone so you can see what I see. And it says, hey, this is a regular Bitcoin address. How much do you want to send? I'm going to send about half the balance. So I've got 75,000 sats there. I'll send over, let's say 35,000 sats. 35,000. And it tells me that's about 53 Canadian dollars. Okay, perfect. If I want to, I can add a note. I'll do that now just so you can see what's up. This is where I would type like I'm sending it to Sparrow. This is good practice for privacy, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but just knowing where money has come from, where it's gone, little notes like that can be helpful just for yourself knowing, especially when dealing with on-chain transactions. That's useful. Details on that later. Nonetheless, type in a little note. I'm going to hit continue. Okay, you're sending this much to the following address. This is how much it's worth. This is the fees for you to send it, 141 sats. So a little bit higher, even though fees are cheap right now, 141 sats to send. Now, it says fee priority. I'm at the fastest, so it should be done at maximum 10 minutes. So let's tap on that and see our options. We have a few options. If I'm not in a rush, again, not much difference right now because Bitcoin transaction fees are low right now, but you may see differences if it's busier in the network right now. Now, you can also do a custom fee. So you can choose down here and you can type in maybe, you want to do 3 sats per byte or 4, whatever it is. If you are well versed in how to do that, you can absolutely do it. Also, you do have something that says advanced settings, and this was where some privacy stuff would come into play. Again, I'm not going to detail this right now. I'm just making you aware that it's there. But for your average person, you're going to scan, take a look what's going on. If you want it to be relatively quick, you just leave that be, and then you're just going to hit confirm. So this sends off. Shouldn't take too long. Successfully sent. Let's pop over really quick here, and we should catch a notification from Sparrow Wallet telling us that a transaction has come in. There it is. Okay, perfect. So that went through, no problem. And we'll just hit the back button here in Bull. And there we go. We see a reduced balance. So we were able to successfully send 3 different ways: Lightning, Liquid, and on-chain regular Bitcoin payment. There we have it. Sent multiple ways. Let's continue on. The final note to make here in regards to just navigation, these accounts, sending, receiving, all of that is you can easily move from instant payments to secure Bitcoin and vice versa. Just by simply hitting the transfer button here. There are drop-down menus that allow you to choose which wallet you're sending from and which wallet the money will end up in. And you can set the amount that you're sending, or you can just choose the max, and it'll let you know any associated fees with those transfers and swaps from wallet to wallet. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions. CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The Coldcard Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The Tap Signer gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away. Debify is the best and easiest way to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Funds are held in a multi-sig escrow where you hold a key, and the platform allows for excellent hardware like the Coldcard Q and the Q. You have access to flexible conditions, the best rates, and institutional-grade liquidity. If you're looking to make use of your capital, don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. You can head over to debify.com to check them out, or simply scan the QR code on the screen. The next thing that we're going to do is learn how to utilize your recovery. So how, if you delete this wallet, how do you get it back with the backups that we have created? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to delete the app. I'm going to install it fresh. And we're going to check out the two different ways to recover, whether you've written your 12 words or you're going to be relying on your cloud backup. Okay, so here we are. Wallet was completely deleted. I did not remove any funds from it. So we're going to make sure that we can actually recover those funds. Are they still going to be there? Because Bull Bitcoin itself doesn't have them. All that we have is the keys to our money. And so it's on us to be able to recover them. So from the main screen, we're going to choose Recover Wallet instead this time. And we have two options, Encrypted Vault and Physical Backup. Now we've done both, so we'll do the first and then we'll do the second just to see how it works. So we're going to choose Encrypted Vault. We're going to choose Google Drive, and we're going to choose the appropriate account. Okay, so it's looking for backups. Now, I've previously used the Bull wallet before, and so it's finding another file that I've made here before, but I want to use the one that I've backed up this time around. So I'm going to choose the top one. So there is such thing as having multiple backups of even different wallets. So I'm going to choose the recent one, and it says your vault was successfully imported. Now we're going to decrypt the vault. So I need my PIN, and we're going to decrypt it. So that PIN, again, was 279831, and we'll hit confirm. If you probably noticed, I could have entered a password if I'd used a password before as well. So it's looking for a balance in transactions. So seems good. We've successfully decrypted things. Balance, okay, number of transactions that we've had. It found stuff, so we're going to hit continue. Okay, and it'll take a sec to load here, but there's our instant payments, and there is our secure Bitcoin for a total of 99,442 sats. Now, it has redenominated this in USD, so our previous settings are gone. We can go in and go to our currency and choose Canadian dollars, and that'll change right back for us. So there we go. And the only other thing that is different is the exchange is not currently logged in, so I will simply re-log into that off screen. But the long and the short of it is I've regained access to my money. Nobody else was holding it for me, but because I did my backup with the encrypted vault, well, I was able to re-access my funds. Let's go back. Let's redo that. And we'll do it again, this time with our seed phrase or our 12 words. Okay, here we are again. I'm going to choose Recover Wallet at the bottom. This time we're going to choose Physical Backup via our 12 words. Again, the screen is blanked out, but I basically see a list of 12 empty slots, and I'm going to type in one by one my 12 words. We'll jump ahead to when I've done that. With my 12 words typed in, I now see a button that says Recover that I can tap now. And this brings me to my main screen, and we can see my balance has now repopulated. Instant payments and secure Bitcoin are both available on the screen. Once again, I've been reset to US dollars, so I can go ahead and I can change that under currency if I see fit. And then, of course, I will once again need to go and log in to the exchange portion if I have that. But other than that, I once again, through a different recovery method, have been able to re-access all of my funds. We're now going to move on to utilizing cold storage with your Bull Bitcoin wallet. So in the context of what we've done so far, everything there in the Bull Bitcoin wallet has been what's known as a hot wallet. A hot wallet means that the keys to your money are on an online device. So the keys to my money reside on my phone, and that is connected to the internet. And with that, there are benefits and there are risks, meaning that it's super convenient to be able to do day-to-day transactions. But if my phone got some malware or something like that, there's a possibility that somebody could gain access to my funds. So the accounts that we set up there within the Bull Bitcoin wallet, both the instant payments and the secure Bitcoin accounts, they are both susceptible to those risks. And so you wouldn't want to keep much more than what you would be comfortable as having cash in your pocket. And so if that's the case, what do we do in order to get something more secure for longer term savings? Well, Bull Bitcoin has built-in support for what are known as hardware wallets or signing devices. And the example that I'm going to use today is something called the Coldcard Q. It looks like kind of like a BlackBerry, I suppose, but there's lots of different form factors for these things. This just happens to be my go-to and my favorite device. I think it's one of the most secure, but there are plenty of flavors out there. What you're going to need is a device that can interact with a mobile phone effectively. And Bull Bitcoin has worked to incorporate a number of different options that you can take a look at. So the way this works is we're going to be able to see our balance in the Bull Bitcoin app. We're going to be able to add to our balance in the Bull Bitcoin app. But if we want to spend, then we need the keys to our money. And when you're dealing with cold storage, the keys to your money aren't stored on your phone in the app. They're stored on a special device. And what this does for security is nobody can remotely hack into this thing and extract the keys to your money. They're kept securely offline. And when you want to utilize the keys to your money, you interact with your phone with this device. The device is designed in such a way that it never shares the key information with your phone, but it proves that you have the keys and that you're allowed to spend the money. And so there's a way that you can interact with QR codes so that we can approve transactions and send them without having our funds at risk of being potentially hacked. So this is great for long-term savings. So we're going to take a look at how to utilize the Coldcard Q and in turn other devices without specifically teaching about those with the Bull Bitcoin app. Now, I do have a number of tutorials on the Coldcard Q. I will put down some basic ones down below in the show notes. So if you want to learn more and you want to really master this thing, you can go check those out. But for our intents and purposes, this device has already been set up, and we're just going to learn how to pair it with the Bull Bitcoin app, and we're going to learn how to receive and send with the Bull Bitcoin app and the Coldcard Q. So let's jump over to the desk. We'll take a look at the steps that we need to do to get this device ready and then get the information over to Bull Bitcoin app so that we can see our balance. So let's jump over. All right, so here I am on the Coldcard Q. Again, this device is already set up. I've already logged in with my PIN for the device. What we need to do is get some information for the Bull Bitcoin app so it knows about our device and it can basically keep track of the balance, allow us to add to it, and allow us to approve transactions when we want to send them. Of course, with the help of the device itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the advanced/tools menu and hit enter. I'm going to go to export wallet and hit enter. And then I'm looking for something that says descriptor. That is the appropriate file that I need to export here. So all the way to descriptor. There we go. I'm going to hit enter. And again, this tells me a little bit about the file that I'm going to be exporting. I can just hit enter here again. At this point, we're going to, once again, hit enter. And I'm going to use the regular, the default here. I'm not doing anything fancy. And it says generating. So just enter through all those menus. And then it says, how do you want to export this? And we're going to choose QR code by hitting the QR button here in the top left. And it gives me this. This is all the information the Bull Bitcoin app needs to be aware of my wallet, to keep track of the balance and allow us to add to it. So we're going to jump back over to the wallet now, and I'm just going to scan this QR code from my device. Okay, so within the Bull Bitcoin app, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go up to the top right to the settings wheel, and then we're going to go to Bitcoin settings, third option there. There is now an option that says import wallet. When I go here, there are some different options. And actually, there are, if I've seen correctly, there are a number of other devices that are now supported within the Bull Bitcoin app that have been added. I'm in developer mode on one of the other devices that I'm using, but I can assure you there's a number of other devices that are coming with support. So you'll see more options here likely by the time you go and play with the wallet yourself. So I'm going to tap on Coldcard Q, and then it says open the camera, instructions. So the instructions are basically what we just went through, what to do on your Coldcard. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit open camera, and I'm going to scan what was on my Coldcard. So I'm going to allow the camera to open, scan that, and it fills it with a whole bunch of different information here. You don't need to worry too much about that. Only thing that you might want to do is give it a label. So what do you want to call this wallet? I'm just going to call it CCQ. Nice and short and easy. And then I'm going to hit the import button down below. So at this point, we now have 3 distinct accounts within our Bull Bitcoin app. We have the top 2, instant payments and secure Bitcoin. One is kind of our layer 2 fast, cheap transactions option. The second is our regular, more secure on-chain Bitcoin transactions, where it's slower and more expensive. And then we have our cold storage. And again, the keys to our money exist offline with this device. So we can see the balance here. We can add to the balance here, but we can't spend unless we have our Coldcard Q or, again, other devices as support rolls out for them. If I click on the Coldcard Q account that we created, I've actually utilized this device for a demo before. So we see a couple transactions that have previously been done through it. And so it not only pulls the ability to add to our transactions, add to our balance, but it'll see anything that's previously been done with the wallet. So if the wallet did have a balance and I imported it as such, that would show up here too. And so what we're able to do is transact and have it more secure for long-term savings. And the first order of business is going to be to discuss all the ways that we can add to our balance with our Coldcard. So let's just kind of go through the various ways that we can add to our balance. Now, one of the ways would be, now that we have an additional account here, we can actually fund it directly from the exchange. So if I go down to exchange here, and off screen, I did add an additional balance to the exchange here. But if I were to choose buy, and I were to say the max amount, down below when I go to select wallet, it now gives me an additional option of the Coldcard Q. And so if this was a larger amount, then, I may want to send directly to the Coldcard Q. Now, we'll get into the nuances of that and why there may be some better approaches. But in this example, I'm looking at it, and as we've discussed in this video prior, smaller amounts like this are not best suited for on-chain transactions. They're slower, they're more expensive, and it may not make sense for that small of an amount. So ideally, I'd probably want to be sending this to my instant payments wallet, which is what it by default has selected for me. So that's just fine. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. But I did want to show here that you can actually go ahead and send directly to your Coldcard once you've added it. So I'll just hit continue and I'll send this additional $50 and I'll confirm it over to my instant payments wallet. So we've seen that we can make a purchase and put it directly into the Coldcard. However, as we noted, you may often have small buys that build up over time in your instant payments wallet. And at some point, you may say, I want to have those in long-term savings. And so this is where the transfer button comes in handy. So what I can do here is click transfer, and I can send from my instant payments to either my secure Bitcoin or my Coldcard. And so I'm going to do exactly that right now. I'm going to send from instant payments over to the Coldcard. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'll just send over the maximum that I have. I'm going to hit continue. It asked me to confirm the transfer. This is going from instant payments to your Coldcard. Gives us a little bit more information. The amount that's being sent, the cost of it is 28 sats, and the total fee. Now, again, if I do the drop down here, it'll let me know what the total fee has to do with the transfer fee and the network fee. Network fee being on-chain Bitcoin. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit confirm, and that will take a couple of minutes to go through, and then I should see it pop into my Coldcard. And just to note, when we go back to home, we can actually see the transfer in progress denoted up top near our remaining balance. So again, we'll see that pop into the Coldcard momentarily. Okay, so we can now see the funds have effectively transferred from instant payments over to the Coldcard Q, and they are secured by the keys, which are offline exclusively in this device. So we've done two types of deposits into the Coldcard Q, or rather, we've shown it's possible to do two types of deposits. You can go directly from the exchange into your Coldcard Q if the amount is large enough and makes sense to you. You can also transfer from instant payments into your Coldcard Q. But finally, you can also directly deposit into the Coldcard Q from an external source. So how do you do that? Well, you would click on the account itself first. So go into the Coldcard Q, and then you would go down to the bottom and you would hit receive. And this generates an address that will be from your Coldcard account. You can send directly to it. Note that this is a regular Bitcoin address, an on-chain Bitcoin address. So it has to be coming from either the swap internally with the transfer from your instant payments, or it has to be coming directly from a regular on-chain Bitcoin wallet, or one capable of sending to one at least. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to jump over to Sparrow Wallet, which I have open here on the other screen. We're going to send a transfer over to the Bull Wallet. So what I'm going to do is I'll allow the computer to scan what's on the phone here. So I'll head over to send, and we'll hit the camera. There we go. And it copies over the Bitcoin address. I'm just eyeballing it, making sure it looks the same, which it does. Then we'll just type in a little note here. Let's go into Bull. And how much do we want to send? I'm just remembering what we have in here. Okay, so I'm going to send over a transfer of 50,000 sats. Now, in the context of what we've been talking about, that is a small amount. Fees are relatively reasonable right now. So I'm not super worried about this for a demo, but you'd probably want larger amounts being sent over to the Coldcard than this. So I'm just going to go through the blue buttons here and send that transaction. So off it goes. We'll jump back to our wallet here. And what I can do is just back out to the main screen. Oops. And we can see that it's already aware of the incoming transfer. So if I click on the Coldcard Q, again, we can see 50,000 sats is under pending. And as a side note, we can also see previous transactions, and those are shown by day. So today, August 16th. So we can see different transfers. And again, of course, I'm recording this over time, so that's the time gaps there. But yeah, incoming transfer. If I click, I get all of the additional information about the incoming transfer. I can click and see it waiting in line. All of those things that we've seen previously for regular Bitcoin payments. Okay, so let's go the other way around. How do we send from our Coldcard or our hardware device from the Bull app? Well, we're going to do exactly that now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the account I want to send from. So the CCQ one. And at this point, I'm going to choose the send button in the bottom right. We can now either paste in a Bitcoin address or open the camera to scan one. So I am going to open the camera in this instance. So we're going to send back to my Sparrow wallet on my desktop, which I'll scan a QR code for right now. Jumping back to the phone, it says, well, how much do you want to send? Do you want to send a certain amount of sats or a certain amount of Canadian dollars? I'm going to send around $50 Canadian right now. So I'll select Canadian dollars. I'll type 50. That looks good. I'll hit continue. It says this is how many sats it is. This is the address you're sending to. And this is the network fee. Again, we've gone through how to set network fee and all of that before. I'm not going to go through advanced settings right now. Again, we'll continue on from there. But instead of a confirm or a send button at the bottom, it says show PSBT. What does that mean? It means partially signed Bitcoin transaction. This is going to be represented here by a QR code. Now, there are instructions here as to what to do with this, but I'm going to show you, and of course you can use the instruction manual later if you do need it. But we're now going to jump over to the Coldcard, and we'll utilize both the phone and the Coldcard together to scan this information, basically letting the Coldcard know about what we want to do and what we need to approve. So let's jump to the desk now. Okay, so I have on the desk here my Coldcard and the Bull app with the PSBT pulled up. So what I'm going to do is I have a couple options here. I can choose ready to sign by hitting enter, which is the first option. And then I can select how I want to sign it. And with this instance, I'm using the QR mode. So I can then hit the QR button. Funny enough, I don't even need to go to ready to sign. I could just hit the QR button as well. This opens the QR scanner so you can see it right there. I'm just going to turn it and I'm going to scan what is in the Bull application. Okay, and this gives me some details. It says, hey, it looks like you're trying to send this amount of Bitcoin to the following address. Is that true? And I can scroll down to see everything, all the details about the transactions. But if it looks good to me, then I can go ahead and I can hit enter. So what this is doing is basically grabbing a signature, me saying, yes, I am done. Here's my approval to send this transaction. So I now have a QR code that is the transaction that I want to send plus the approval to do so. Only that specific amount of Bitcoin to the specific address that I designated. Okay, so I have the approval here on the Coldcard, but I need to tell my phone about it so that it can send it over the internet. So in the Bull app, I'm going to hit I'm done down at the bottom. And then it asks me if I want to paste in some information or if I want to use my camera, or there is a fancy thing called push transactions where you can use NFC. But whatever way we get the information to the app, it doesn't matter. In this instance, it's just super easy to do the camera and scan the QR code. So I'm going to do that now. So I'll scan what is on my Coldcard. And it says, hey, here's all the details. You have everything that you need here. And in order to send the transaction, I just hit broadcast. There, broadcast signed transaction. I get my check mark. I hit done. And we'll see the balance update in just a moment here. There it is. We've now sent $50 back to Sparrow Wallet by scanning a couple QR codes and hitting broadcast. And just to quickly show, here is the incoming transaction in Sparrow Wallet that was sent from our Bull Bitcoin app with the help of our Coldcard Q. So up next, I want to cover what I believe would be probably the best flow for people that are regularly buying small amounts of Bitcoin, but eventually want to get it into your cold storage, like your Coldcard Q for long-term savings. And this is actually enabled by a really simple toggle switch that Bull Bitcoin has put into the settings here. So if you're regularly receiving small amounts of Bitcoin, you would typically be doing that into your instant payment wallets, whether that be with a regular buy from Bull Bitcoin itself, if you're doing that through the app, or if you're on another exchange and receiving. Ideally, you want smaller payments going into the instant payments right here. Now, of course, if you're over on the exchange, you can, fund this regularly. If you're in Canada, you can do regular e-transfers at certain intervals and be doing regular buys. You can kind of automate all of that, and you can say activate recurring buy, and it would be every day, every week, every month, whatever it is. I don't have a balance in there right now to do that, but again, that's a thing that you can do as long as you regularly have it topped up here. And so that would go into your instant payments wallet. However, there's the added step, right? You have the manual transfer from instant payments to Coldcard Q. But do you have that added step? Not if you enable something in the settings, which is if you go to Bitcoin settings, there's something that says auto transfer settings. And if you click there, you can set a threshold. You can say my max instant wallet balance is, and here it defaults to 1 million sats. Okay. And this is a pretty good large chunk to be putting into your Coldcard all at once for on-chain regular payments. And so what you would do is you say, here's my threshold, whatever that may be. The max transfer fee I want is this, meaning, between the on-chain transaction fee and the swap, I don't want to pay more than 3% when that triggers. And you can set this as you see fit as well. And then finally, which wallet is it going to? Right now it says secure Bitcoin. However, you can choose the dropdown, pick your Coldcard, and there you go. And you can also say always block high fees. So if the fees spike at a certain point in time, you can hit that toggle switch, and then you know that you won't accidentally do a transfer at a time when it's inopportune. And so this basically automates everything. Whenever I build up to 1 million sats in my instant payments wallet, I want to trigger a transfer into my cold storage so that it's safe and sound in my savings. And I want to make sure it only happens if the fees are reasonable. And then at this point, you don't need to do anything. You just continue to keep saving in Bitcoin over time. And as soon as that balance hits that threshold, boom, it's off to your vault and it's protected by your Coldcard Q, and you don't have to worry about it. And as we're going to talk about in the next section, there are some privacy benefits in doing this as well. Looking for a simple and secure way to manage your Bitcoin on mobile? Aqua Wallet has you covered. It's user-friendly and puts you in full control of your Bitcoin with secure self-custody. Aqua also supports Lightning and Liquid Network, making fast, cheap Bitcoin payments and asset transfers easier than ever. Plus, it even supports stablecoins, giving you ultimate flexibility. Built on open source code, Aqua is transparent, trustworthy, and perfect for beginner and pros alike. Ready to upgrade your Bitcoin experience? Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen now to download Aqua Wallet today. Securing your Bitcoin doesn't have to be complicated or invasive. With Nunchuck's Honey Badger plan, you get state-of-the-art multisig with built-in inheritance planning and no KYC required. Nunchuck is trusted by users to secure billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The Honey Badger plan offers 204 assisted multisig, guiding you step by step on mobile or desktop. It works seamlessly with hardware wallets like TapSigner, Coldcard, Jade, and plenty of others, so you're always in control. Plus, with non-KYC inheritance planning, you can ensure your Bitcoin goes to your loved ones. No private info needed. Take control of your Bitcoin today. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen to check out the Honey Badger plan. So let's chat privacy and the Bull Bitcoin wallet. There's a number of things that are built in here that don't require you to think very much in order to benefit from them. Number one is inherent in the instant payments wallet. In the background, it is utilizing two things. Natively, it is a liquid network wallet. And the liquid network, kind of a layer 2 of Bitcoin, what it does is those transfers, the transactions themselves are shielded in that they don't reveal the amount that is being sent, nor do they reveal the asset that is being sent, because the liquid network can handle things like stable coins as well. So all that can be seen on the chain is a transaction took place from address to address. And that's pretty much it. Of course, it also benefits from the low fees, so on and so forth. Now, the other thing in regards to the instant payments part of things is when you are sending or receiving Lightning transactions, that is, yes, sending and receiving on the Liquid network, but when you're sending or receiving to a Lightning address, then you are actually executing a swap in the background between Liquid and Lightning network using something called bolts. It's called a bolts swap. And so not only are you getting the shielded amounts and transactions from Liquid network, you're also getting the benefit of actually swapping those coins between Lightning and Liquid, which further obfuscates, where it's going, where it came from, all those things on the outside looking in. And furthermore, when you move from your instant payment wallet to your Coldcard, for instance, for savings, or to your secure Bitcoin balance, the thing that's happening there is, again, a bolts swap. You are moving from Liquid to on-chain. And that has, again, an added privacy benefit in executing that. So inherently, you're getting some privacy doing your instant payments. And when you move to your Coldcard for long-term storage, then you're also getting an additional layer of privacy just in executing that transaction itself. So when you execute your regular instant payments, sending and receiving, you're getting some added privacy benefit. But also when you move from instant payments to your Coldcard for long-term savings, you're getting the added benefit of the swap that occurs there too. On top of that, the flow that I described before, building up a balance in instant payments and then moving to your Coldcard, it has another benefit, and this is in relation to fees and something called UTXO management. When you receive regular Bitcoin transactions, they sit there as individual balances, kind of like if somebody was giving you $5 bills over and over again, you'd have a stack of them there. Now, the way that Bitcoin works is the more digital bills that you are holding and using for a transaction, the more expensive the fees can be. So as you build that up, it can be cumbersome later, and there's some nuance around it. I do have a video on UTXO management. I'll link it down below so you can get the details. Nonetheless, it's worth noting that when you receive small amounts on chain regularly, then it can build up and can cause pain when it comes to paying fees later when you spend. However, this is not really true of Liquid and Lightning here. And so what's happening when you let a balance build up in instant payments and then send over a large chunk into your Coldcard for savings is that build up here is sent as a single large balance to your Coldcard, meaning one chunk of Bitcoin, also known as a UTXO. And that, again, will reduce a fee burden later on. So not only are you adding privacy, but you're adding efficiency when it comes to fees. Now, in the realm of what is known as UTXO management, UTXO again representing the term unspent transaction outputs, we have something implemented called labeling. So when you receive or send transactions, you can add a label to them. And those labels carry over later on so you can see what you're spending, where they came from, all of that stuff. This is part of on-chain privacy. And so if I were to go to, say, my Coldcard Q and I wanted to send somewhere, and just for the fun of it, I'll scan an address here in Sparrow just really quickly so we can see what that looks like. Okay, jump back to the wallet here. Okay, I want to spend a certain amount. Let's say I want to spend 30,000 sats. It ran, again, pretty low for on-chain, but you get the point. Okay, I've set that. I can add a note. I'll just say test is fine. And then we'll continue on. So under advanced settings, I'm going to click here. And it says select coins manually. So when I click this, it actually shows my individual UTXOs. Now, I didn't previously label these, but if I did, that would also be present here. And I can see, well, I've got two pieces of Bitcoin, or two, we'll call them digital bills right now. One for just over 91,000 sats, one for just over 16,000 sats. And I would be able to see where these came from. And what that tells me is an individual may know that I own one of these pieces of Bitcoin. And furthermore, if I go to spend one of these pieces of Bitcoin, one of these bills, then the person will not only see, the receiver will not only see the money that they're getting, but they'll see the change. And so if I'm making a small purchase, but I've got some small and large UTXOs, I may want to use one of the smaller ones so I'm not revealing a large amount of change, so the person doesn't begin to understand how much money I have in my wallet. So you can imagine if one of these was 1,000,000 sats and one of these was 50,000 sats, and I wanted to buy, I don't know, a candy bar or something, I'm not necessarily going to pull out the 1,000,000 sats to buy the candy bar. I might want to pull out the 50,000 sats to buy the candy bar. It would be a little bit like if you're paying at a corner store and there was such a thing as $1,000,000 bill, you're not going to pull out $1,000,000 bill in front of the cashier to pay for something small. That would be very revealing about your net worth. So the same privacy mechanism is indicated here, and with proper labeling, you'll be able to also see where the bill was coming from before, so that you can begin to piece together who knows what you have. Now, another cool thing that the Bull Bitcoin app has added that very few other Bitcoin apps have added so far is something called Payjoin, or pay to endpoint. And what this does is when you go to send a transaction, it enables what functionally shows up as a coin join on chain, which means it obfuscates not only the amount being sent but also who the receiver is, and it makes it very confusing for those looking from the outside looking in on chain to see, well, who sent what, where, and for what amount. And this is achieved by the other person's wallet also contributing Bitcoin to the transaction and doing it in a number of different bills, so that you can't really tell who ended up with what at the end of the day. And so it's really cool that when you go to send, if I hit send and I open the camera, I'm just going to scan another wallet that has Payjoin enabled. Now, when Payjoin is enabled, you will not even know that you're using it. Okay, when you're sending. So that's really nice in terms of it's just like an added privacy benefit. You may not even realize that you're getting the privacy benefit when it is there, but when it is available, it will be enacted. On the other side of things, if I hit receive and I go to Bitcoin, at the bottom, you can see it says Payjoin activated. And I have another Payjoin enabled wallet here. It's called Cake. And I'm just going to I'm going to hit the send button, and I'm going to just simply scan the address from Bull Bitcoin. And then I will just quickly jump over. I'm just going to hold up the phone. But on the send screen, at the bottom, you can see it says send Payjoin. So as the sender, if you scan a Bull Bitcoin receive screen like the one that we just saw, if you scan this, as long as your wallet has Payjoin enabled, it will allow you to do so, and it will let you know as the sender. And so again, this is just a passive thing that you don't need to really worry about yourself when it's available. Use it, and it will give you increased privacy on chain. Now, Bull Bitcoin has also added in the ability to connect to your own personal Bitcoin node or Electrum server here in the wallet. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, if you're unfamiliar with running your own node, this is basically hosting a copy of the entire history of Bitcoin's transactions, as well as the rules that govern the network. Now, that is in one way, again, a form of don't trust verify, where rather than relying on somebody else's node to tell you that you have a balance, you're relying on your own. But furthermore, it's also privacy preserving, meaning that when you inquiry somebody else's node to see if you have a balance or to check for new transactions or to relay a transaction, you're kind of letting that node runner know that this person at this IP address is asking about these addresses. And so when you just use your own copy of the Bitcoin blockchain or the Bitcoin time chain, well, you get to just look at your own copy of the ledger. And because of that, you are no longer leaking private information. So valuable thing to do. And I'll give a couple suggestions that you might want to check out. Of course, my main node that I use is Start9. And so this is what it looks like. It's just a little box that you plug into your router and plug into the wall, and you can access it locally on your home network or remotely over Tor. And then a secondary option would be something like Umbrel. It's got a kind of like a nice clean design to it. And there's positives and trade-offs for both of them. Again, I default to Start9, but some people tend to lean into Umbrel as well. It does look very nice as well, but you're going to be able to obtain the same information from either of these. So first off, let's take a look over at the Bull Bitcoin app, see where we're headed. So we're going to go up to the top right. We're going to choose the settings wheel. We're going to go to Bitcoin settings, and we're going to choose Electrum server settings. And so default servers here, it shows that these are the different potential Bitcoin nodes that we could be connected to. So there's a fallback just in case. Bull Bitcoin's running one. Also, the Blockstream one is right here. I will make note that there are liquid Electrum server settings here as well. A little bit trickier to run your own liquid node, although there can be options out there. So you can add a custom one here as well, but we're just going to focus for on-chain Bitcoin right now. So all you need to do is you hit add custom server, and it asks you to paste in your server URL. Now, there is a way of entering this information. Typically, it will be the URL, like a long string, dot whatever. In our case, it'll be dot onion because we're going to be going over Tor. And then there'll be a colon and then a port number. If there's additional stuff in here, you may need to kind of backspace and remove it. But this is kind of the layout that this particular wallet is using. So we're going to take a look at what that looks like. Now, before we do that, however, I do want to show one other little thing that you're likely going to need. And that is something called Orbot that I have downloaded. Orbot right here. So Orbot, what this is, it's an application, and it doesn't really show what I'm seeing on the screen here, but it's an application that allows you to connect via Tor. And all that's pictured here, a big button that says Start VPN, and this allows me to connect over Tor. and that encrypts all of my traffic. And it also allows me to choose which apps that will connect over Tor. And in this instance, there's a button that says choose apps, and you can select the Bull Bitcoin app as one of the Tor connected applications that you use. Nonetheless, I've turned that on. You can now see up top, if I do pull down, I see connected to the Tor network right here. Okay. So that means that the selected apps that I set in Orbot will now connect via the Tor network. Okay. So back here, we're going to add our custom server. We need this information. We need to get it from our node. And so I'll show you how to get it from either node. So in Start9, you're going to need to have your Bitcoin node, and you're going to need to have your server, your Electrum Rust server. With both of these synced and running, you click on one, you go to Properties, and you're going to see a few things. You're going to see a host name and a port number. You're also going to see a quick connect URL. You can pretty much grab any of these. If you're grabbing the bottom two, you're going to be copying, pasting multiple things or manually typing something. I'll just copy the top one here. Then I'm going to jump back, and I'm going to paste that information into my, there we go, right there, into the Bull Bitcoin app. Now, a couple things to note. I do not want this T at the end. So that just denotes Tor, but I don't need to worry about that. And then at the beginning, I believe it adds a little bit of additional, like an HTTPS something. Oh, maybe not. Okay, awesome. So that's all we need. If it does say like HTTPS or something at the beginning, you can just delete that as well. I'm going to hit add server. Okay, and here we go. So what we see is the top two are now crossed out. I'm not using those. I'm using a custom server, and it shows my string connecting to my Start9 node, and it says that it is online. If I back out to the main screen, we can see we get our little green button in the top left, and that shows that we are actively connected to our own node, or to a node. It will still show that as long as you're connected to a node. So there we have it for one example. If we jump back and we go to our Umbrel, again, you would open up ElectRS or Electrum Rust server. That will open up a new window, and you can get the same information here. It will have a local network option. This will only be if you're on your home Wi-Fi. But if you click on Tor, it is broken up here. It has a string, and then it has the port. You would copy this and paste it in, and then you would, at the very end, type :5001, but it would be the exact same effect, same information, and you would once again be connected to your own node, no longer relying on anybody else's. Again, just a side note about node implementations, I do have videos down below on both Start9 and Umbrel so that you can check them out and be able to set them up on your own and then use them in concert with the Bull Bitcoin app. All right, let's discuss what is going on with that backup feature in the cloud, because oftentimes there's worry about, well, I'm taking my seed phrase and I'm backing it up to the cloud. I mean, if my cloud gets compromised, then that's a big issue. And what I'm going to say is actually this is very well thought through, and you're not encrypting your backup with your PIN. That would obviously be insecure. I used, they do prevent you from using really simplistic PINs, but there's something more going on there than you think. It's not just a single file being uploaded to your Google storage or your iCloud, and then it's encrypted with a PIN. No, what's actually happening is the following. You have the user storage, and yes, there is an encrypted copy of your seed or your private key. However, there is also a decryption key. This is a totally separate file derived from your wallet, and it has to do with the master fingerprint of your wallet, if I'm not mistaken. And what happens is this separate decryption key is uploaded to an entirely different server, the Recover Bull server, and that is somewhere separate from the main wallet file. And what happens is when you go and you get your main wallet backup from your cloud storage, it will also go ahead and it will access your Recover Bull with your PIN. It will access the Recover Bull server and get the decryption key. So in practice, what this means is if somebody breaks in to your cloud storage and gets access to your encrypted key, they do not have the decryption key. And the decryption key is very, very sound. It's like you have as good of a chance of guessing a seed phrase of somebody's. So they effectively have nothing. Furthermore, nobody really knows where this Recover Bull server is. And so they would have to, one, get your wallet file, two, find the Recover Bull server, also find the corresponding decryption key. And they would have to explicitly know that those two corresponding files are the ones that go together, because there's going to be other decryption keys that are sitting on the server as well. And so again, the likelihood of both of these cloud storage being compromised and the person finding the correct files and the person being able to relate the two files together to effectively decrypt them are very, very, very slim. Furthermore, this applies to just a hot wallet. And as we discussed in this video as is, hot wallet is not meant for your long-term savings. It is meant for day-to-day spending, a certain threshold, something that you're, like you would carry around as cash in your pocket. So with minimal risk in this cloud backup scenario, with minimal balance as people should be observing, I mean, this is an excellent solution for your average user that maybe would not have done self-custody, was worried about it, and now has a simple way to manage it. So kudos to Francis and the Bull team for coming up with the solution. Again, they give more information over at recoverbull.com if you want to check that out. But that's kind of a Cliff's Notes version of what's actually happening in the background. Overall, the Bull Bitcoin app is a fully featured kind of all-in-one great default for anyone from beginner to advanced Bitcoin user. It's got a lot of great things baked into it. I love that you've got your spending wallet, you've got your on-chain, you've got the ability to deal with your cold storage. They've got baked in privacy things that you don't even really need to think about too much. And on top of that, if you're in a jurisdiction where you can use Bull Bitcoin, the whole thing is seamless. You can have your buys, your sells, you can pay your bills, you can do all of that from within a singular app. Furthermore, the backup and recovery process is fantastic. I really like what they've done with the Bull Recover. And again, if you prefer the 12-word seed phrase, you've got that option as well. But for newcomers, that cloud backup in a secure way is an excellent way to get people to self-custody in an effective way with minimal barrier to entry. And again, do it in a secure, responsible way that is still mitigating a lot of the risk. So with that, I would love to hear what you guys thought about the Bull Bitcoin app. Please do let me know in the comments down below. What did you like? What didn't you like? What additional features would you like to see? I look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, share, all those things. Super important. Now, if you do need some additional help in your Bitcoin journey, head over to btcsessions.ca/learn, where we've got a one-stop shop to learn all of the Bitcoin basics all the way up to advanced. We've got some some videos that we've put together there that can lead you through everything from beginner to advanced, plus dive deeper with extended playlists on a whole bunch of different topics. And if you need additional help, reach out to my team over at Bitcoin Mentor, where you can get one-on-one help and make sure that your setup is rock solid. With that, I'm out. Make sure you keep on stacking sats, but also keep stacking those skills. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This was your daily session.